Good morning, children. Today we are going to read the poem A Tiger in the Zoo. And this poem is written by Leslie Norris. And in this poem, the poet talks about a tiger that lives in the zoo. And he compares the life of this tiger with a tiger who is free and who lives freely in a jungle. So let's start with the poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. So here let's look at the difficult words first. Stalks means to follow, vivid means bright colored, pads means paws of tiger, and rage means anger. Now look at the stanza. He talks in his vivid stripes. Vivid stripes means the colorful stripes that are present on the skin of the tiger. Stalks generally means following, like a tiger follows his prey. A tiger wants to kill and eat an animal, so he stalks. But here stalking just means to walk, because the tiger is restricted by a cage. So he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. He walks in his beautiful skin a few steps in his cage. The cage provides him with limited area to walk, so only few steps he is able to walk there. On pads of velvet quiet, and his pads, they are as soft as velvet. So when he walks, no sound is produced. So the word quiet is used. On pads of velvet quiet, in his quiet rage. Now this quiet rage, children, this is an example of oxymoron. See, quiet means to be silent and rage means to be furious. When you are furious, you are not quiet. You become aggressive. You vent out your feelings. So, when two different words, two opposite words are put together, juxtaposed together, then the literary device used is called oxymoron. And here in his quiet rage, we see this literary device used. So let me explain this stanza once again. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. He walks a few steps in his cage because the cage is small, so he is able to take only few steps, and when he moves he doesn't make any sound because of the velvety pads on his feet, and he moves around in rage. He is from inside full of anger, but he is not able to show his anger to anyone. So now let's move to the second stanza. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. So the poet says that a tiger is not meant to live in a cage. He should be moving around freely in the jungle. He should be lurking. Lurking means to be hidden, as to wait for your prey. So he should be hidden somewhere in the long grass near some water body where some plump, healthy deer come for taking water. So he should be hiding there, he should be looking for his prey, he should be attacking his prey, and that's how a tiger lives. That is something natural to a tiger. So putting a tiger in a cage is very unnatural according to the poet. I hope this stanza is clear. Here the poet says that the tiger is not meant to be kept in a cage. He should be moving around freely in a jungle. He should be hiding himself behind long grass near some water body, waiting for his prey to come, and he could attack on them, he could kill them, and he could eat them. So now we move to the third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. So the poet says that a tiger is not meant to be kept in a cage. He should be snarling. Snarling means giving warning sounds, roaring fiercely. So the poet says that the real place meant for a tiger is not a cage in a zoo but a forest. So a tiger should be moving around freely at the jungle's edge, at the outskirts of a jungle, and he should be roaring fiercely at people, terrorizing them with his white fangs and claws. Fangs means sharp tooth of the tiger. So bearing means showing. So by showing his white fangs, by showing his claws, he should be terrorizing the villagers living at the outskirts of the jungle where the tiger lives. So here again the poet says that this is something natural to a tiger, not living in a cage. Now let's move to the next stanza. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. The poet says, the poor thing, that this ferocious, aggressive animal meant to be lived in a jungle is locked up in a concrete cell. Concrete means he is put behind a cage that is a part of a building made of bricks, cement, sand, and water. So he is locked up in a cage, and in the cage he is not able to show his strength. So he is only moving in the cage itself, ignoring visitors. So this tiger lives in a cage in a zoo where visitors come, people come to see these animals. So this animal, tiger, he ignores the visitors when he come near to his cage. Why he ignores them? Because he knows he cannot show his ferocious nature towards these visitors because he is locked up in the cage. So it's useless to terrorize these people with his fangs and claws. So he ignores the people who come to see him. Now let's move to the next stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So in the last stanza, the poet says that this tiger is quite sad. His life is very miserable. The whole day he stays in the cage, and the last voice that he hears at night is that of the patrolling cars. Patrolling cars are the cars used by police to guard the town, the city. So the last voice that he hears at night is that of the patrolling cars, and he looks above at the brilliant stars with his brilliant eyes. So as he cannot do anything, he cannot change his situation, he cannot go back to his jungle, so he simply sits and stares at the sky and looks at the beautiful stars there. So in this poem, the poet has brought about the misery of the tigers and the other animals that are kept in cage for display. These animals also have rights to live a life of freedom and of their own choice. So the poet makes a request to the people that such things should be avoided and animals should be provided freedom to live their life on their own grounds.